Here we're going to tie a fly called the common craw. I developed this fly for the South Platte River and fly fishing for carp. It's a little different than a lot of the other carp flies out there. This fly is made to be fished in current, so for that reason I tie it fairly heavy. So the first thing we tie on here is a pair of lead dumbbell eyes. I like to use red ones, but you can tie them in yellow or whatever color you'd like. So all I'm doing is just figure eighting my thread around these dumbbell eyes to seat them, keep them in place. I do several figure eights around them, and I go underneath them. And this usually keeps them in place. You can always super glue them if you're afraid they're going to move on you, come out of place, but that usually does the trick. Now you can fish this fly with just those dumbbell eyes if you're fishing moderately deep water, or you can add some turns of lead. I figure I tie this fly to be heavy, so I want it to be heavy, so I tie some 020 lead wire in here. I don't add too much, I add just enough to basically cover the straight portion of the shank. Now I'm just going to seat it all in there. Make sure it's not going to move on me. Now, once I've got the wire tied in, I'm going to take a plume of olive marabou and a plume of black marabou, one of each. I'm going to put these plumes together and even their tips up. They both come together just like so. Now we're going to tie this plume in. It's going to be roughly the length of the entire hook. Tie these in at the back. And trim out the excess. Clean it all up. Take my thread forward. So that will be the tail. I like a multicolored tail. If you look at a crayfish, they're never one color. I think that's one of the reasons this fly works so good, is the multicoloredness that it has. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some peacock herl. We're going to take a healthy clump of peacock, about 10 to a dozen strands or so. We're going to line up the tips. I'll usually just simply chop them to line them up. Then we're going to tie those in right behind the eye. We're going to tie these right on top of the shank of the hook. I'm going to tie these all the way back. If you lose a couple, you can just retie them in. Peacock is very brittle stuff, and it likes to break on you. Once you have those all tied in, you make sure you're tied in all the way back there to the tail. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tie in a piece of micro pine squirrel in crawdad orange. Tie that in right at the back. We're going to take our thread forward just to behind the eyes. We're going to wrap this piece of pine squirrel. With each wrap, I'm going to pull back the fibers. That way it lays down nice and even. Kind of see the effect that we're getting here. Now once you get to the lead eyes, you're simply going to capture that pine squirrel, a couple tight wraps. You can get in there and trim it out. Now it looks nice and shaggy right now. You'll see what we're going to do here to clean that up in the next step. Now you simply grab all that pine squirrel and pull it all back. Lay down some nice tight wraps. And leave your thread right there. Now you're simply just going to pull two or three of the easiest pieces of peacock herl up, and you're going to split this pine squirrel right down the middle, kind of just like so. See how I just kind of split it with my fingers? And you're going to take those pieces of peacock herl, you're going to pull them right over the top. You're going to lay down just two tight wraps. That's all you really need. Then you're going to take your thread and jump it right behind the eye of the hook. Now you're going to take that peacock here. You're just going to wrap it all around the eyes. All we're really trying to do is cover up all the work that we've done. Make sure we don't have any bare thread spots showing. Once you've covered up the eyes, you can simply capture that peacock, lay down a couple of turns. Now we can trim it out of here. Do so carefully so you don't trim any portions of peacock you don't want to cut. Now you simply take your other strands of peacock. You're going to pull all the chunks of marabou out of there that get caught. You're going to pull that piece of peacock straight over the top. Capture it with your thread. Then you can get in there and trim out those extra pieces. Clean up that head a little. Now you're ready to whip finish. I usually do a couple of whip finishes here just to make sure we're secure. And then once you're done, you can kind of fluff out the collar here. And that's all there is to the common craw. And see how that pine squirrel sticks out to the side when we split it with that peacock. This is a very effective fly on the South Platte River. I've also done very well with it in still waters, but it is heavy. You can tie it a little bit lighter in still waters, that way it doesn't hit the water quite as hard and scare the fish. I really developed this fly for the rivers, and on the South Platte it just murders them. It's a good fly.